In 1840, stranded in Paris, he faced empty pockets, mounting debts, and doors slammed shut by the city's musical elite. The Paris Opera, then the center of the classical music world, dismissed his work as too strange, too German, too radical. He survived by churning out music journalism and arrangements for others, but the dream was always bigger. He did not just want to write operas, he wanted to transform what opera could be. From these early hardships, Wagner forged a rebellious vision. He saw the traditions of Mozart and Beethoven as brilliant, but ultimately limited. Mozart's melodic genius and Beethoven's orchestral drama still kept music and story at arm's length. Wagner wanted something more immersive. In a series of essays written in exile by 1849, he described his idea of the Gesamtkunstwerk, the total artwork. Music, poetry, staging, myth, and emotion fused into a single, overwhelming experience. No more decorative arias or showpiece overtures. Every note and gesture would serve the drama. This was not just music theory. It was a manifesto for a new kind of art, one that demanded new stages, new audiences, and a new way of listening. The old models could not contain him. While others refined the forms they inherited, Wagner wanted to tear them down and build something colossal in their place. This is where everything changed, and where the cost of his vision began to reveal itself. A single chord can shake the ground beneath centuries of tradition. In 1865, the opening bars of Tristan und Isolde introduced a sound that seemed to defy gravity itself. F, B, D sharp, G sharp. The so-called Tristan chord hangs in the air, refusing to resolve, pulling the listener into an endless sense of longing. For audiences raised on Mozart's elegant cadences and Beethoven's heroic climaxes, this was something entirely new, a musical cliffhanger, a question with no answer. Music theorists still debate its true function, but for Wagner, it was the sound of desire itself, stretched to the breaking point. But Wagner's revolution wasn't just about harmony. He wanted the orchestra to tell the story, not just accompany it. His answer was the leitmotif, a short, memorable theme tied to a character, idea, or object. In the Ring cycle, over 60 of these musical tags weave through 4 operas, like threads in a vast tapestry. The motif for the cursed ring itself, a twisting, ominous line, can creep in quietly or thunder through the orchestra, signaling fate's grip tightening around the characters. These motifs morph and combine, revealing hidden connections and unspoken thoughts long before a single word is sung. This is where everything changed. Suddenly, opera was no longer a parade of arias or set pieces. Sound became story. The rules of classical music bent, and the stage itself would have to grow larger just to contain the force of Wagner's imagination. Wagner demanded a stage where music, myth, and emotion could fuse into an overwhelming force, something no existing theatre could contain. The Bayreuth Festspielhaus, opened in 1876, was his answer. Its auditorium seats 1,925, but every detail serves one purpose: to draw the audience into the world of the drama, shutting out the outside world entirely. The orchestra vanishes into a hidden pit, sunk beneath the stage and shielded by a wooden hood. Musicians play unseen, their sound emerging as if conjured from the air, blurring the line between reality and legend. The hall itself is darkened, the audience left faceless and anonymous, so nothing distracts from the story unfolding before them. This is not just opera, it's total immersion, a prototype for the cinematic experience that would follow a century later. None of this would have been possible without King Ludwig II of Bavaria. Obsessed with Wagner's music, Ludwig poured his personal fortune into the composer's dreams, providing millions of marks from 1864 until his death in 1886. The king's patronage went far beyond mere sponsorship. He gave Wagner the power to control every aspect of production, from the architecture to the acoustics to the very instruments in the pit. Wagner even commissioned new instruments, like the Wagner tuba, to achieve the colors he heard in his mind. The scale was staggering. Rehearsals stretched for months, and the Ring cycle required hundreds of performers, technicians, and artisans. This is where everything changed. The Bayreuth experiment turned the composer into an architect, a director, and a myth maker. But this came at a cost. Wagner's vision demanded loyalty, money, and obedience on a scale no composer had ever dared to ask. The world of classical music would never be the same. Wagner demanded not only artistic loyalty, but personal allegiance, often at the expense of those closest to him. He played friends, patrons, and rivals against each other, weaving a web of favours and debts that kept him at the centre of every decision. Even as he dazzled audiences with music that seemed to come from another world, his private life was marked by betrayal, manipulation, and a relentless need for control. Now, this is where it becomes controversial. In 1850, Wagner published a pamphlet called Das Judentum in der Musik. He attacked Jewish composers like Mendelssohn and Meyerbeer, painting them as outsiders whose work, he claimed, could never touch the true spirit of German art. The language was not just critical, it was venomous. When he expanded and reprinted the pamphlet in 1869, outrage erupted. In Leipzig, protests broke out at the Opera House. The pamphlet's words fueled riots and left a stain that would never wash away. Wagner's anti-Semitism was not a passing prejudice, it was a core part of his public voice, echoed in his letters, his circle, and for some, in the very sound of his music. Yet his influence only grew. The same Valkyries who once stormed Bayreuth stage would thunder over the jungles of Vietnam in Apocalypse Now, their music weaponized as psychological warfare. The power Wagner harnessed to move crowds, to shape minds, to bend art toward ideology, outlived him. In the world of classical music documentary and Richard Wagner analysis, this contradiction refuses to fade. His music theory innovations, the birth of the leitmotif, and his fingerprints on cinematic music and storytelling in film are undeniable. But the shadow of his beliefs lingers, forcing every new generation to confront the question, can you separate the genius from the man? This is where everything changed, and now the world had to reckon with the cost of greatness. 4 principles drove his approach, each one reshaping how audiences would experience opera, and later, the very idea of storytelling in music. First, intensity. Wagner pushed emotional extremes to their breaking point, using harmony and orchestration to make longing, fear, and triumph almost physically overwhelming. Second, scale. His works demanded vast orchestras, new instruments, and epic runtimes, dwarfing anything Mozart or Beethoven ever attempted. Third, control. Wagner insisted on shaping every detail, from the architecture of Bayreuth to the placement of a single leitmotif, treating the theatre like a laboratory for total immersion. And fourth, continuum. Instead of separate arias and applause breaks, his dramas flowed without interruption, weaving music and story into a seamless psychological journey. Modern music psychology shows how these choices heighten the brain's response, pulling listeners deeper into the narrative. Theatre studies see the blueprint for today's cinematic music and blockbuster spectacle. This is where everything changed. Wagner wasn't just writing notes. He was designing experiences that would ripple through the evolution of music, film, and the global music industry for generations to come. Blockbuster movies thunder with familiar echoes, heroic themes, ominous chords, musical signals that tell us when to hope, when to fear, when to mourn. The DNA of these cinematic moments traces back to Wagner's Revolution, leitmotifs guiding the story, orchestras painting emotion, sound and drama fused into a single, overwhelming experience. From John Williams' Star Wars to Hans Zimmer's epic scores, the fingerprints are unmistakable. The tools Wagner forged, endless melody, immersive staging, and psychological tension, have become the foundation of the modern music industry and the language of global storytelling in music. But with this inheritance comes a responsibility. Wagner's vision was vast, but his shadow is just as long. His music, once used to inspire and unite, has also been twisted to manipulate and divide. Today, the same techniques that build worlds on screen can be used to stir crowds, sell ideologies, and shape memory itself. The question isn't just how good Wagner was, but how he used the power he unleashed. This is where everything changed. But this came at a cost. He did not just compose music, he built worlds. And whether you admire him or question him, you cannot ignore him. Today, every cinematic score and immersive opera owes a debt to Wagner's risk. Proof that genius and controversy can still reshape the global music industry. What will music dare next?